There were so many moments in the movie where I was just like stunned and mesmerized, literally like. Welcome back to Movies Are So Back, the YouTube movie review channel where I, Ethan Simmie, ask the question, are movies so back? This past weekend saw M. Night Shyamalan's newest thriller film, Trap, hit theaters nationwide. And to cut to the point and short and sweet this thing, I loved it. I thought it was one of the funnest movies of 2024, so much so that I decided to bust out my M. Night Shyamalan t-shirt for this video review. Now, Trap is one of those movies in classic M. Night fashion that's kind of difficult to talk about without spoilers. So I'm going to give a little bit of what the movie is about. I'm going to talk about it spoiler-free for like 2 seconds, and then the rest of the video is going to be spoiler-filled. So if you haven't seen Trap, I recommend seeing it first before you watch this video. I don't want to be the guy that ruined Trap for you and then forever will ruin this film experience. I can't have that on my conscience. So please just see Trap first and then watch this video. Trap is all about Cooper, played by Josh Hartnett, a guy who's just trying his best to be the best girl dad that he can. He's just trying to take his daughter Riley to a Lady Raven concert, the biggest pop star in the world, and he's got floor seats, he's buying her merch, he's buying her snacks, and he's just trying to make a memorable day for him and his daughter. Except there's one small little problem. He's a serial killer known as the Butcher, and the entire concert's a trap to capture him, which, wow, incredible. Just a truly magnificent, super self-contained genius idea for a movie. Ever since the trailers came out, I was already super locked into this movie. I think it is a brilliant way to frame a thriller. Now, this is my first M. Night movie in theaters. I've only ever seen The Sixth Sense, so this is really only my second M. Night movie. I'm pretty sure I watched The Village as a kid. I don't remember it though, so I don't really count that. So this experience to see this kind of an M. Night movie in theaters, opening weekend, with a pretty full crowd, was the funnest theatrical experience I've had in 2024. It was truly awesome. I'm not going to go through the movie per se, but I am definitely going to call out a lot of things that I liked, a few things that I didn't really like, and just why I had so much fun with this movie. So I'm going to start with Josh Hartnett. Josh Hartnett is not only self-important, he is actually important, and he's kind of perfect in this role as Cooper in Trap. Now, there's a whole discourse. There's a whole big thing. And from what I understand, this has been going on for a long time. And I'm not trying to interject myself into this world because I don't feel qualified, not having enough M. Night experience. But this thing of M. Night's dialogue has been going around for a long time. From what I know and what I've seen and what I've experienced, guys, this is just an M. Night thing. It's just how he thinks. It's how he talks. It's how he makes movies. And in my opinion, that is what makes his movies so fun. Trap is incredibly hilarious, supremely awkward, and Josh Hartnett plays both of those things really well. The entire idea of Trap is kind of built on the fact that Cooper is living a double life. He is, yes, trying to be the best girl dad that he can and be a wonderful father and everything that encompasses. He's also a serial killer. He has this obsession and this compulsion to do that. He's done it 12 times prior from what we know, what's said in the movie. So that idea to live a double life is represented so perfectly by Josh Hartnett's ability to both be menacing and quirky at the same time, which is like two words and two feelings that should not really go together, but they do, and they do quite wonderfully because a lot of the dialogue in this movie is kind of more black and white. It's kind of a little more on the off-putting side. And I think that's what makes this movie work so wonderfully. Cooper is debating and in live time trying to figure out how to do both of the things that he needs to do. And so he is continuously having his mind be somewhere else when he's trying to verbally communicate with his daughter about certain things. So like, it just makes sense, in my opinion, to have really kind of weird, classic M. Night dialogue in a movie like Trap. It's what makes it work so well for me. Now, with all of that being said, I think the one caveat to Trap is that it requires a large amount of buy-in. I bought in and I was along for the journey and I enjoyed every single second of it. And immediately after Trap ended, I was like, well, I want to see that again. That was a lot of fun. I had a blast. I had a really good time. But again, it requires the buy-in. So I feel like if you go into Trap and in the first 5 minutes, you're not on board with like the energy, the dialogue, Josh Hartnett's character and his energy specifically, then I think it'll be a tough sit. I think it just like won't land for you. And that's okay. Now, I mentioned how this movie traverses the idea of a double life, a double identity very, very well, and pretty nuanced in my opinion. Cooper is trying to be the best dad that he can while also having a life of compulsive killing, and he has never let those two lives touch up until the events that transpired during and after the concert, by the FBI, by Lady Raven, by himself. And I think that's a really interesting part of the movie. But what I find even more fascinating is that upon further kind of space from watching the movie, further discussion, discourse, reading about the film, the movie is about like a lot more really deep themes. It's about the impact of social media and how the community that we form on these massive global reaching platforms do actually exist in real life and can do real things. It's about high school friendship and how Riley is struggling to deal with her friends, her so-called friends in high school, and how parents traverse that topic, which I think is a really interesting thing. It's about pop star fandom and pop star culture and how all of that plays into how we consume media and culture and music and everything around that. And I think those ideas are really, really interesting and a really cool thing for M. Night to tackle and to put in there and to traverse. Now, Lady Raven, the pop star of the film, is played by Salika, who is M. Night Shyamalan's daughter. I thought she was exactly what she needed to be in this movie. She, in the end of the film, when she is going toe-to-toe with Josh Hartnett, I was like thoroughly impressed. And I thought her screen presence and her screen energy directly juxtaposed the really menacing, verbose, overbearing presence that Josh Hartnett elicits when he kind of becomes the full encapsulation of the Butcher and of his serial killer nature. And even though they're in two distinct locations, they play really well off of one another. So I thought Salika was really good in this movie. And honestly, I thought she had some bangers. And I've listened to the album since I've seen the movie. And I thought it was great. So I think it's a really cool thing for M. Night to put his daughter in this movie and yeah, kind of act a little bit as a Nepo vehicle for his daughter, but do so in a way that I think is in really good taste. And I think actually works really, really well because the movie's not built around her per se. It's definitely built around Josh Hartnett, but more so it's built around the themes, ideas, and the visuals of what the movie elicits. And that is something that I think works really well for this movie. Speaking of banger songs, Kid Cudi is in this movie. You may have seen him in a trailer. He's in this movie for like 2 minutes. He's donning a just wonderful Targaryen blonde set of hair. He sings one song with Lady Raven. He walks down the hallway one time yelling about kombucha. And then he gives Josh Hartnett's character Cooper a nice up and down and a little mental call me note. No notes for Kid Cudi in this movie. Just to do more of this. Please. This is what thriller movies need. This is the kind of energy and presence that Kid Cudi delivers on screen. And like, I think he did something similar but really different in X, and he's really good in X. And I want to see him in more horror movies. I thought he was astounding. Like the 2 minutes that he was in the movie, I thought he was astounding. And furthermore, M. Night names his character The Thinker, which is like kind of not necessarily an aged out pop star, but definitely an older pop star compared to Lady Raven. And, you know, a person, a guest that she brings on the stage, someone that only appears for a moment and then disappears. And I think that idea of what that means in the pop space and in the culture space is really, really interesting. So M. Night is kind of like tackling a ton of different things. He might not tackle everything very deeply, but he does tackle a ton of different things, which like a ton of respect for. A movie like this, you don't expect that to happen, and it totally does. Outside of the thematic genius of the movie, I mentioned the visuals of the film and how they play a huge starring role in this movie. Sayambu Muktipram is the cinematographer behind Trap. You might know him from movies like Call Me By Your Name and more specifically Challengers, the best movie of 2024, the movie with some of the most incredible shots and cinematography of the 21st century. And then he does Trap. And I think that is just so fucking cool. I just think it is so awesome. And you can totally see him working on the same level, the same caliber that he did on Challengers, delivering a totally different product. I mean, this movie gives us a split diopter shot. A split diopter shot and a total B-level thriller movie is, in my opinion, just like unheard of. It's just like really, really proves that M. Night wanted this to be exactly what it ended up being. And I don't use B movie as a derogatory term. I think this is really an A-tier B-level thriller movie. And I think that is like the highest compliment that I can give Trap, because it feels like a B movie. It's kind of corny, it's really funny, it's kind of awkward, and it's actually thrilling, but it looks so good. The score is so good. There's so many deep thematic narratives at play that it acts on that really A tier of that B movie list. And I mean it in just the most endearing way possible. There were so many moments in the movie where I was just like stunned and mesmerized, literally like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm seeing what I'm seeing in the constraints of the movie that I'm watching in terms of cinematography. I mentioned the split diopter, but there was just like so many things that were so visually alluring and so visually like present that I was just like, wow, like we're making a good movie here. And it was a really good movie. Now let's talk about the final scenes of the movie, some of which definitely strain credulity and believability. And that's okay, because like I said, this movie requires buy-in. You have to buy in to the narrative and the world that M. Night has created. And along with that comes some really silly decisions, some of which work, some of which I don't think work. But I think that's part of the fun of Trap. The movie does feel like it overextends its stay by about 20 minutes. It takes a lot of twists and turns in the final act, some of which work, a lot that I think are a bit too much, but they are fun nonetheless. Also, Josh Hartnett is shirtless in basically the final 15 minutes of the movie. So it really ended up being not that big of a deal. Hartnett brings some really dark energy and mannerisms and presence to this idea of him like going back to the house to kill his wife and instead indulging in a piece of pie and becoming a victim himself and falling for what he has so fervently fought against the entire film and managed to kind of skirt and get out of the way of, and he finally falls victim to that. It's a big year for pie in cinema. I don't know. That was just like one thing I noticed in Trap. I was like, oh, Pie's back on the big screen. You love to see it. I don't know. Big year for Pie. And I think that while not all of it works in the end, it still manages to be a really, really fun time and a really great energy that Trap maintains the entire time. I loved Trap. It's as simple as that. The more that I think about it, the more that I want to go see it. And making this video has only made me want to see Trap again more. So that's fantastic. It's pretty silly. It's really thrilling. It's got a really menacing score, menacing energy from Hartnett. It's got some great little performances from a whole slew of people. And it talks about big things, which I just am astounded by. I just think it is like one of the coolest things ever for M. Night to use this as a vehicle to talk about being a girl dad and pop culture and music and obsession and double lives. And like, there's a lot of things. And I just think it is really, really fun and really, really cool. So are movies so back? Yes, they are.
We are so very, very back.
Trap might not be the best movie of 2024. It might not even be in the top 10 of 2024, but it is the funnest time I've had at a movie theater in quite a while, and I loved every single second of it. I genuinely hope that M. Night makes like 15 more movies. I know that there's a clip going around of him saying he knows what his next 3 or 4 are going to be, and I am just so thankful that I got on the M. Night train. If you're hesitant, I cannot recommend it enough. Go see Trap. Go see Trap again. Enjoy it. Buy into it. You will not be disappointed. Trap just kind of absolutely fucking rules. Let me know what you thought of Trap. Be sure to leave a comment down below and subscribe to this channel so you don't miss any future movie reviews that I do. Movies are so back, people.